Senator Bernie Sanders sat down on the Today Show with Savannah Guthrie and answered some interesting questions.
Let's talk about the news. Last night, for the first time, the president revealed what he says was the justification for the attack on General Soleimani. He said intelligence shows that multiple embassies overseas were being targeted by Soleimani. Do you believe him? Do you believe that intelligence?
No. I sat in a intelligence briefing, classified briefing, the day before, where we had all of the top-ranking intelligence people, military people, and not one word of that was mentioned. So is it true? I don't know. But we didn't hear it in the classified intelligence
Is it
briefing.
Possible that it could be true, but
Look,
you wouldn't have heard about it there?
The difficulty that we have, and I don't mean to be rude here, is we have a president who is a pathological liar. So could it be true? I guess it could be. Is it likely to be true? Probably not. And I think what happens in our own country and around the world, people don't believe much of what Trump says. And when you lie all the time, the problem is sometimes maybe you're telling the truth and people are not going to believe you. But, you know.
So Samantha Guthrie asks Bernie Sanders if he believes Trump when he says that 4 American embassies were being targeted. She even calls out specifically, but what about the embassy in Baghdad? The correct answer is the one that Bernie Sanders gave. No, I don't believe that. He mentions that he saw national security briefings, that was not mentioned in. But Samantha presses him, is it possible? Like, yes, it's possible, but that's not, is it probable? No, right? That's the correct response to have to that. But it's a very gotcha question, because if he says, no, it's not possible, then, well, it's not a true statement, right? That basically anything's possible. But then if he says, yes, he believes Trump's assessment, then he's going against the grain and not being true to what the intelligence briefings are saying. Let's move on.
You've said this week that you did not support the killing of General Soleimani.
Right.
Ultimately, what's happened so far is Iran did respond. However, it was rather subdued in that there was not any loss of life. Did that work out better than you anticipated? Do you give credit to Trump for that at all?
I'm afraid that movie is not yet over. When you have a situation where, by the way, without any authorization from Congress, and you will recall that under our Constitution, it is Congress that determines issues of war and peace. And when you assassinate a high-ranking official of a government, you unleash international anarchy. Because if the United States can do that, why can't other countries do that? And then you're off and running without any basis of international law. Look, I'm the former chairman of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs. I saw what the war in Iraq was about. I knew 4,500 died, thousands were wounded, PTSD. We spent trillions of dollars on a war that we were lied into. They were not weapons of mass destruction. They were lies to get us into that war. I will do everything I can to prevent another war with Iran.
This is a weird one where it's another gotcha. So was Iran's response the best outcome for Bernie Sanders not supporting the assassination in the first place? Well, there would not have been a response if we did not assassinate Soleimani in the first place. So why is this a good response for Bernie, who opposed the assassination even though it took place? Does this somehow, I don't know, it's really weird, right? So did this work out? And then she mentions, do you give Trump credit for this? It's like, no, he did not want to assassinate Soleimani in the first place. He thought it was a bad idea. And so why would you give Trump credit for Iran's military restraint? That does not make sense.
Iran, the president said Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. Obviously, you've said, everyone says, in fact, that diplomacy is the best course there. But if you were president, could you live with a nuclear Iran, or would you be willing to use military force to stop it?
We had a process in place working with our allies which prevented Iran from getting a nuclear weapon.
But the situation as it is now, let's say you're president tomorrow.
I'm not going to be president tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be president a year from now, but not tomorrow. And what our goal will be to once again bring our allies and bring Iran together to once again create a process by which Iran does not get a nuclear weapon.
Real quickly, would you be willing to live with a nuclear Iran?
Well, we do not want, let's be very clear, we do not want Iran to have nuclear weapons.
So Samantha Guthrie puts out sort of a false dichotomy here. Would you be okay with a nuclear Iran, or would you use military force against Iran? So the only way to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons is to threaten them and act on that threat militarily? That doesn't make sense. That's not the way that it was working before. We had an agreement. There was a treaty, the Iran nuclear agreement. That was a thing that was working. And what Bernie's saying is we should go back to that. And then there's this whole, but if you were president tomorrow, you won't be president tomorrow. The vote doesn't happen until later. Come on. So how he would act as president is really more of a what he would do probably starting next year. So it's a really weird gotcha question in that, you're trying to frame it as though if you don't want to go to war with Iran, then you want a nuclear Iran, and you're okay with that. No, dude, we don't want nuclear weapons anywhere, right? We don't want anyone developing nuclear weapons. And we also don't want to have to use military force to coerce people not to develop nuclear weapons. There are other ways of accomplishing that.
Let's talk about impeachment. As you know, the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been holding up the articles of impeachment, hoping to get some leverage and negotiate about what the process in the Senate is. What's your feeling on that? You're going to be a juror.
Here's my feeling.
Do you think she should
You're right. I'm going to be a
juror.
juror. You're right. I'm a senator. I'm going to be a juror. Last that I heard, when you have a trial, you get witnesses, right? You hear the prosecution tell you why the guy's guilty. You hear the defendants, the people who are defending the person, tell you why he's innocent. It is astounding to me that we have Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader, trying to prevent witnesses, some of whom want to testify, from being present in that trial.
I think their position is we'll turn to that later. Do you think she needs to send him over and just get the process started?
I think now the responsibility is with McConnell, and I hope McConnell does what the American people want. Give a fair trial. That means we have witnesses who will testify. Senators will hear it. The American people will hear it, so we can form a clear and decision, an honest decision about Trump's situation.
Would you like her to send them over quickly?
I would like Mitch McConnell to say that he's going to do the right thing and that we're going to have witnesses.
All right, impeachment. So this is another gotcha that they're giving him, and Samantha presses this point a lot. Should Nancy Pelosi deliver the articles of impeachment? If Bernie Sanders says yes, she should deliver the articles of impeachment, some people might think, oh, well, that's good. He wants to get the impeachment on, and that's really fighting against Trump. But it would mean saying Nancy Pelosi's strategy is wrong, right? That would be going against Nancy Pelosi, which is what they would come after him for. Oh, Bernie can't, play nice with other Democrats, and he doesn't understand the political maneuverings and the strategy that Pelosi is trying to do. Because she's the master legislator, blah blah blah. But if he says no, she shouldn't, well, then he doesn't want to impeach Trump. So either way he answers that is wrong. So this is one of those, he's forced into a position of appearing to dodge the question because it is such a BS question. So I think he took the correct line there is, hey, this is really falling squarely on Mitch McConnell. He has to make a fair proceeding here. And by doing that, you sort of acquiesce to Pelosi's stated goals. Her stated goals, not that I think that they're the necessarily real goals, but her stated goals for withholding the articles of impeachment are to ensure a fair trial. So by saying, hey, it's on Mitch McConnell to deliver a fair trial, you now sort of pay a little bit of respect to the stated strategy, and you get to point the finger at a Republican rather than at Nancy Pelosi, which plays better in the NBC News crowd.
Let's talk about you in general. Since we last saw each other, I believe you've had a heart attack. You've kept up a very vigorous campaign schedule. After that, since October, you've released 3 letters from your medical doctors talking about your medical condition. But for Democrats who are looking at this race and sizing it up, what do you say to those who feel like it's a little risky to nominate a 78-year-old man who had a heart attack a few months ago.
Well, look, you can do the converse of that and say, you know what, being 78 and having a 30-year career in the Congress, mayor of the city of Burlington, Vermont, I have a record. And if you go back to my record over decades, you know what? It's a pretty consistent record. It stands up for working class of this country.
Separate
it takes
issue.
on
Yeah.
it takes on the corporate greed that exists today, whether it's Wall Street or the outrageous things that the drug companies are doing. So if people want somebody who's consistent, who stands for working people, who've taken on all of the special interests, I think I'm that guy.
And that speaks to your experience, and there can be a debate about that, but the question was about your health. What about if somebody's worried about someone of your age, forgive me, who just had a heart attack?
Yeah, well, look, I think you look at the totality of a candidate. Every candidate has strengths and weaknesses and so forth and so on. I would not be running. I would not be here today if I were not healthy. As you know, I'm running a very vigorous campaign. No one out there is working harder than me. We feel great. If we win this thing, we're going to have a very vigorous administration.
Oh, you're about to die. You had a heart attack a while ago. You're not healthy. Everyone should be mad about that, and nobody should vote for you because you're old and you had a heart attack. I think his answer was the best he could have done there. And that is, hey, if I were not healthy, I would not be running, essentially, which is, should go without saying. The other question that I think mainstream press could ask that would be more honest in this particular vein, but I don't expect them to ask it, would be, have you given any thought to who your running mate would be? Because with a president who is more elderly or is some health concern about, the biggest question then becomes, well, who would take up the mantle in the case that the president would no longer be able to serve, which is the vice president. So who his running mate is becomes the major question, not, so you're going to die any minute now, right? So that's the thing, right? You're on death's door, right? Get out of here with that.
Democrats, above all things, if you talk to them, if you look at polls, they put electability at the top of the list.
Yep.
They want to win. They want to beat Trump.
Yes.
What do you say to those who are worried that your message is too progressive, too far left to win a general election?
No. The way you beat Trump, and I believe this very strongly, is you're going to need a huge voter turnout. And that means you need a campaign of energy and excitement, which speaks to the working class of this country, which speaks to young people, which brings people into the political process who have never been in that process before. That is what our campaign is about.
So the electability question. This is a dumb one because it gets phrased in this context as, oh, you have to be electable. Doesn't that mean you have to give up your policy positions and your progressive ideas? Because everyone knows you have to be a milquetoast centrist with no platform and no ideas about governance in order to win. You need to campaign on not doing anything and telling everyone why we can't do anything. That's not a strategy that works. I think we should know that by now. The fact that the mainstream media continues to run with that as a line of like, hey, you need to tack toward the center and play fair with big business. It's like, hey, it's not the neoliberal era anymore. Just put that away. Ultimately, I think Bernie could have gone with an answer where he points out the fact that he beats Trump repeatedly in every head-to-head poll and has done so over the last 5 years consistently, every single one, 100%. That's a data point that goes to the electability question very well. But nonetheless, I think Bernie handled the question well.
Can I just ask you, if you look at 2018, our most recent national elections and midterms, the candidates you endorsed, I believe of all the competitive districts that could have gone red to blue, only one of them flipped. The Democrats got the House back, but they did it by running more centrist campaigns.
No,
and they flipped districts. I mean, so a lot of Democrats are saying
it's
maybe
more
that's the way to
complicated
win.
than that.
Okay.
One of the things that we managed to do in 2016 is energize a lot of young people and working people who previously had not voted. And that 2018 election, we saw a huge increase in the number of young people who were participating, which is exactly what we have to do. Look, what the American people understand is that the middle class is stagnant right now. People are working longer hours for low wages. They can't afford prescription drugs. They can't afford to send their kids to college. Meanwhile, the people on top are doing phenomenally well. The American people, in my view, want a government and an economy that represents all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors. That's why I believe we're going to win.
Senator Sanders, nice to have you here in studio.
All right. Oh, only one of the candidates that you endorsed who happened to be in a swing state that we declared that could have been flipped from red to blue won. So you're not endorsing the right people. You don't have the right strategy. I mean, we ended up with a blue wave, right? So, but your idea was wrong. Blah, 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 blah. So he endorsed people that won from blue seats, right? That took away from those centrist, corporatist Democrats. That's a big win for progressives. That's a win for Bernie Sanders style politicians, right? AOC was among those, right? Let's not talk about that, though. Let's talk about, only the districts that could have been flipped red to blue. And let's also leave out the fact that polling on progressive candidates underrepresented how well they did in the actual elections. Like, progressive candidates, so you're Our Revolution, Brand New Congress, Justice Democrats, progressive, don't take money from corporations style candidates in the 2018 midterm outpaced their polling, right? They performed better in the election than their polling suggested. Now, in some of those situations, it did not result in a win. When you have overwhelmingly red states, occasionally that's not a thing that can happen. But a thing that's worth pointing out is, look, all of the centrist Democrats that ran, even those that won, did not perform as well in the actual vote as they did in the polling. The polling appears to be skewed in their favor. All of these Justice Democrats, Brand New Congress, Our Revolution, Don't Take Corporate Money, progressive candidates outperformed what the polling said. Even the ones that didn't end up winning their actual race, they came a lot closer than the polling indicated. I think that's a tack that Bernie could have pointed out, and I think he did well there, at least in pointing out that we're chipping away at it and we're making the types of progressive change that we really need. Ultimately, this type of interview did not surprise me. So Bernie's in this position now where he's in the top 4, right? He is unignorable. They were hoping he would be ignorable by this point, but he is unignorable. And so he's having to go on, or mainstream news outlets, particularly News Light, like the Today Show, has to have Bernie on, have to interview him. And so what are they going to do? If they can't ignore him, well, they're going to smear him. And so that's what we saw here. Every single one of these questions was a gotcha. Every single one of them, there was no easy answer. There was no, okay, if I just say yes or no, then that will, show people where I am. That'll show people what my position is. No, instead, Bernie has to take a step back, inform the viewer that the framing of the question is completely BS, and then kind of put the building blocks back in place about what are we trying to fight for? How is this campaign going to win? What are the important things in this country? We're going to see more of this. I'm expecting to see more of this. So stay tuned, and I will cover it. We'll see y'all later.